Okay, so get ready because this deep dive, it's going to be a heavy one. We're dealing with some really disturbing stuff, allegations of abuse and power dynamics, and what looks like a massive cover-up that could go back decades.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, and it's important we go into this with our eyes wide open.
Absolutely. And you might be tempted to think, "Oh, this is just another day in Hollywood, right? Another celebrity scandal." But trust me on this one, this goes way beyond the usual gossip.
I agree. This isn't about bad behavior. This is about
Yeah.
potential systemic abuse, and that's a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. And the scale of this thing is just mind-blowing. We're talking about attorney Tony Busby. He held this press conference and just dropped a bombshell saying his firm has been contacted by over 285 people.
Oh, 382.85.
385 people, all with accusations against Sean Diddy Combs. And we're not talking about just recent years. This goes all the way back to 1991.
That's over 30 years of potential abuse.
Yeah.
So the question that immediately comes to mind is why now? Why are these claims surfacing after all this time?
It's like you said, this isn't just some isolated incident that happened yesterday. This is,
Yeah, it's a pattern. And it's a question that deserves a nuanced answer. Part of it has to do with the legal concept of revived claims. Some states, they recognize that it can take years, even decades, for victims of abuse to come forward, especially when we're talking about people who were minors at the time.
right, because trauma like that, it can be incredibly difficult to process, let alone talk about.
Exactly. These laws, these revived claims, they provide a legal avenue for these victims to seek justice even after all this time.
So it's like these laws are giving a voice to those who were silenced for so long.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the legal aspect either.
Huh.
We have to remember the psychological impact of trauma. You take years to process what happened, to even admit it to yourself, and then even longer to find the courage to speak out.
And seeing others come forward, that can be a catalyst, right?
Absolutely. It's often called the domino effect. When one person bravely breaks the silence, it can empower others to share their own experiences.
Mm.
Busby's announcement, it seems to have opened those floodgates, and what we're seeing now is this waves of accusations that paint a very, very disturbing picture.
Yeah, and you said it before, but this isn't just about one person's alleged actions. This is about a pattern. Busby described a chilling modus operandi, and it's like something out of a nightmare.
It's a classic case of power and control dynamics sadly playing out on a massive scale.
So walk us through this. What did Busby say about this pattern? Because I got to tell you, when I was reading through the source material, it was like each detail was more unsettling than the last.
Right, and that's no accident. These patterns are often designed to be insidious to operate in the shadows.
Yep.
But let's start with the beginning with what Busby called the lure.
And I think this is where it gets really insidious, right? Because it's not like some obvious threat. This is about exploiting people's dreams.
Precisely. According to the allegations, it often involved the promise of opportunity and access invitations to exclusive parties, after parties, even auditions. Imagine the appeal for a young, aspiring artist, eager to make their mark in the industry.
It's like dangling the brass ring right in front of them, and who wouldn't be tempted to reach for it?
Exactly. And that's where, according to Busby, the pressure would escalate. He described victims being offered drinks often laced with drugs, with the implication that refusal wasn't really an option.
And this is where things take that dark turn, because we're not just talking about a little something to loosen people up. He specifically mentioned a horse tranquilizer called xylazine.
Which, if true, is horrifying. Imagine being drugged without your knowledge, losing control over your own body, and then,
according to the allegations, comes the abuse. Busby spoke about sexual assault often taking place in front of others, leaving victims not just physically injured, but deeply traumatized.
trapped in a nightmare, because this is where the threats allegedly came in. Threats of violence, threats to their careers, threats to their families.
So it's like being caught in this web of fear and intimidation.
Exactly. And that fear is what keeps people silent. Because they're told that if they speak out, their lives will be ruined before they even truly began.
It's a tragically effective way to maintain control. You know, when I was going through Busby's statement, there was this one thing that really got to me. He talked about how this pattern, it wasn't just about targeting individuals. It was about creating this system, this whole network where people around the abuser become complicit.
Right. It's like it takes a village, but in a really messed up way.
Exactly. And he specifically called out those bystanders, the people who might have seen what was happening but didn't do anything to stop it.
It's like turning a blind eye, because it's easier than confronting something uncomfortable. Or maybe even scary.
And then you have those who are more than just bystanders. Busby called them enablers. The ones who actually helped make the abuse happen, or at least made it easier for it to continue.
And that's where things start to get even darker. Because it's not just about holding one person accountable anymore.
Right. This isn't just about Sean Combs. This is about a whole system that might have been propping him up. And this is where Busby's investigation, it expands beyond just Combs. He said he's planning to name other individuals and even corporations as defendants in these cases.
Oh, hold on.
Oh.
Corporations. What kind of corporations are we talking about?
He mentioned banks, pharmaceutical companies, even hotels.
Okay, now that's interesting.
Mhm.
What could they possibly be implicated in?
Well, that's what Busby's trying to prove. He's trying to show that these entities knew about the alleged abuse or even benefited from it somehow. Maybe they helped cover it up. Who knows? But if he can demonstrate that their involvement was that direct, it could mean huge legal trouble for them. And let's be real here, it would be a PR nightmare.
Yeah, you're telling me, imagine being tied to a scandal of this magnitude. It would be devastating.
Absolutely. And that's why this case, it's so much bigger than just one person's actions. This is about exposing a whole system, a culture that allows this kind of abuse to happen and even protects the abusers.
Right. It's like they're hiding in plain sight.
And you know, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by all of this, to feel like there's nothing we can do to change a system that seems so ingrained.
It's true. It can feel like an impossible task. But it has to start somewhere, right?
Right. And maybe that's the first step, just acknowledging that this isn't just a Hollywood problem. This kind of abuse of power, it happens everywhere. And it's been happening for way too long.
It's about time we shine a light on it
Mm.
and hold people accountable.
Exactly. And one of the things that really hit me hard while reading through these accounts was this quote from a young man who left the industry because of what he says happened to him.
What did he say?
He said, "Had he not been in power, I feel like I could have been something great. I quit. I quit the industry because of what Sean Combs did to me."
That's heavy. It really makes you think about the human cost of all of this, the dreams that were shattered, the potential that was stolen.
It's a reminder that behind all the legal jargon and the headlines, there are real people whose lives have been forever changed by this.
And their stories deserve to be heard.
Yeah, and it's easy to get lost in it all, you know, to feel like it's just too big, too overwhelming. What can we even do?
It's true. It can be paralyzing.
Yeah.
But I think the first step is simple. Believe survivors.
Believe and really listen, you know,
Yep.
without judgment, without questioning their experience.
Exactly. Their courage in coming forward, especially after all this time, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And they deserve our support, not our skepticism.
Absolutely. And speaking of support, if someone's listening to this right now and they're relating to these stories, if they've been through something similar, what resources are out there for them?
Well, the first one that always comes to mind is the National Sexual Assault Hotline. It's a lifeline for so many people. That number is 800-656-4673.
And Busby's firm, they actually set up a dedicated hotline specifically for this case. That number is 1-802-107-4747. And he emphasized that all communication is confidential, protected by attorney-client privilege.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
And beyond those immediate resources, there are so many organizations doing incredible work to fight against sexual assault and support survivors. These groups are working to change the culture, to create a world where these kinds of abuses just aren't tolerated.
Because as we've been talking about this case, it really highlights that this is a systemic issue. This isn't just about one person's actions. It's about a culture that allows powerful individuals to exploit others, often for years, and get away with it.
Right. It's about power and control in the systems that protect abusers.
In this case, as horrific as it is, it has the potential to be a turning point.
It really does. Will force a reckoning, not just in the music industry, but in every industry where these power dynamics exist.
Will this be the thing that finally breaks the cycle of abuse and silence?
That's the question we're left with. And it's a question we all have a role in answering. Through our actions, our choices, our willingness to speak up and challenge these systems.
And maybe that's where the hope lies. Recognizing that we all have a part to play in creating a world where stories like these, while heartbreaking, become a relic of the past, not a reflection of the present.
Well said. It's up to all of us to keep asking these questions, to keep pushing for change, and to support survivors in any way we can.
It's been a heavy conversation, but an important one. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a privilege.
Yeah.